Well, technically it's spring on the farm, but you wouldn't know it with the temps being 17 this morning. But a couple trees showed up. Well, we get into programs every year to try to get some trees and, enhance the farmstead, both for the production of maple and oaks for deer and fruit trees for, us to eat and stuff like that. We like trees. We have a lot of space where we can put trees. And this year, look in the box, it's oaks. Burr Oaks to be specific, folks. Oak trees are nice. They help the deer. They help the wildlife, squirrels and so forth. So we're real pleased to get our hands on some of these. These are, I think, about 6 feet tall. They've been wrapped up with like a moisture bead after they've been, I don't know what you call it, rooted out. So they're kind of bare root. And they're ready to go in the ground. Well, the problem is these come from a place, south of Iowa, and it is probably planting time for them. But up here, like I said, it just hit 17 degrees. I think tomorrow morning is going to be 24. I don't know. It's one of those things where they go by the zone and when they can plant things, and it's just too cold. So what we're going to do is we're going to get these guys potted and show you how we make it until we can plant. Typically in Minnesota, the best planting time we find is around Memorial Day. That's when you can start to think about planting gardens and potatoes and stuff like that, peas, and certainly vegetables that are already up from a greenhouse standpoint. And seeds can be put in then too, but you got to hope for the good weather at that point. It's just colder up where we are in this part of the state. But we're getting the wrap off it, and we're going to get these things into tubs. Thankfully, I've always kept tubs that we've bought plants in, and I've got some bigger tubs we can use. And hopefully we can get these things, well, let's see, right now it's the end of March, so hopefully by, the middle or end of May, these things will be starting to get a little bit root bound, so we can just slip them out of the containers and drop them into great big holes that we've put out there, put the tree wrap on them to protect them from, the rabbits and the little chippies and stuff like that. And we can get these guys through their next year of life. I find that if I get a tree about this size and I can make it through the second winter, it's going to live, it's going to survive. Those first 2 winters, they can be kind of tough. Between freeze out and critters trying to eat their bark and, scratch them and stuff, it makes it tough. But it is what it is. They look pretty good. Obviously you can see where they kind of cut the taps on these, and then they've got the roots on the sides all still intact. So I'm just very carefully loosening these up. And we're going to use a potting soil. It's nice, it's soft, it allows the roots to easily kind of wrap around and start getting what they call root bound, which is what we want before we plant. And it also allows us to put a tiny bit of fertilizer and give them some ability to kind of take off decent, at least at the beginning. So here we go. We're starting to put a little in the bottom just so that there's something in there for a base. Now you can go to your local nursery, folks, and buy trees of this size too. But I find that those trees can be anywhere between $50 and $200. And when you want to put a lot of them in every year, it's just unaffordable. Well, this year we're just doing a few replacement trees for ones that are damaged, so getting 4 of these is quite affordable still. But, these trees do cost money, and like I said, if you go buy them at, potted at this size, do expect to pay a little bit, that is for sure. Things have gone up in the world today. Nothing is as cheap as it was. So we just got potting soil here from Menards. It's just a basic potting soil. The white little flecks you see in it are the little beads to help hold moisture. Julia's going to push it around, and we're going to kind of shove it down in. Try to get as much airspace out as we can so the roots are in compact soil. We will water these probably almost daily, probably about at least maybe a quart or two, probably 2 quarts. We don't want to overwater them, but we want to make sure they have some moisture. The first year keeping them watered is kind of important, but I'd say the first 2 weeks you plant them is very important. Trees are kind of in a dormant state right now, and as they become active, they really need that hydration to kind of function. They can't take those droughts and dry periods until they're a little bit tougher and older. So she's doing great here. She's getting it all in place. This is exactly what we wanted. It's packing in really nice. I'm going to use my foot here and just make sure it's compact in. I'm not so worried about centered inside of the tub. I've got it so that the roots fit. We can always center it in the hole that we dig outside later when we put these in. These particular ones are going in a tree line. I've got probably a good, maybe third of a mile. It's probably more of a quarter of a mile tree line that I'm going to splice these into, where there's a couple dead ones in there, and see if I can get them to take off. I always like to have tree lines that have a few pines, a few oaks, and a bunch of maples in there. Obviously, the maples benefit us with the sugar source. The oaks attract the wildlife, and they're a strong, strong tree. And then the pines or the firs give you that windbreak that you need in winter, and they also obviously give you protection from other critters eating other critters. So it's, you know, it's kind of like a habitat area, if you know what I mean. So here we go again. We got another one going in, and what we're going to do with these, because they're in dormant state, there's no buds on these yet. Okay, we're actually going to keep these in the garage, and that'll delay them from budding out a little bit more too. But they will bud out in the garage, and once they bud out enough in the garage, then I'm going to move them outside so their leaves can get sunlight. And I'll probably keep them real close to the house or down by the greenhouse where we can protect them in case it starts to get too cold in April. Unfortunately, in Minnesota in April, you can still have, you know, anywhere between 2 and 10 inches of snow. We can still have very, very cold, freezing nights. Matter of fact, I've been there in Mother's Day and seen snow on Mother's Day in Minnesota. So, you know, where we are, we've just got to have the ability to move them in and protect them and shelter them if we need to. I would suspect that we'll get these in the ground probably, like I said, late May, and then hopefully we'll water them heavy through about the middle of June. Every other day at least probably, and then we'll go from there. Again, she's getting the fertilizer and just a tiny bit on the edges, just so they have something to work with when they take off. And like I said, when we plant these in about 2 months, we'd like these things pretty root bound, so we can just pull them out with a chunk of dirt so we don't bare root them again. So that's our game plan, at least at the moment. This is going really well. It's nice to see these trees come in. Obviously, I wouldn't mind if they came later, but that's not the way it works, because down in their turf, they want to ship them before they bud, and I get that. So they're coming out of their dormancy down there, and they're shipping things, and up here we just have to deal with it. So when you get trees and you're not ready to put them in the ground because your zone isn't ready, hang on to these buckets, you know, that you get from other plants, and, you know, use a 5-gallon pail and drill holes in it if you had to. Whatever you got to do, get these things situated so that you can protect them and wait until you're ready to put them in the ground. They'll do fine in the pots like this, folks. They can bud out, they can even leaf out, they can start growing, get themselves root bound, and then you can move them into the earth when you guys are ready and it's safe in your area to put them in the ground. Again, potting soil works really well. Use what you like. You can use dirt. It's just heavier to move down the road. Make sure you water them good and you know, get them a little bit of fertilizer. Just don't burn their roots, but just a tiny bit so you can get them going. And I think you'll end up with some nice trees. These Burr Oaks, hopefully at 6 feet tall, will become wonderful oak trees. I would suspect that we'd, you know, have acorns by the time they're, you know, 7, 8, but really doing well by the time they're 10 years old. So this is a project that does take a while, but it's well worth it, folks. Look at these beautiful trees here. We've got them all watered up. They're looking great. They're inside the garage here. They're nice and tall. I think they're going to do wonderful. I appreciate you liking and subscribing. We've got some more great videos coming out here as the farm is in full swing here as we get into spring. Thanks for watching, folks.